Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Stop Light Switch. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this is something you're actually going to need. So the whole point of a stoplight switch is if your braking system uses an indicator light, is to give that indicator light an accurate reading if the brake pedal in your Jeep is being pushed down or not whenever your braking system applies. So for example, I'll activate our braking system by pulling out the pen here, and you can see that indicator light illuminating. So it illuminates red, letting us know that the brake pedal is being pushed down. So right off the top of my head, two of the systems that I can think of that we need to get the switch is the Stay and Play Duo, like we have here today, and the InvisiBrake. And I'm sure there's a couple more too that would potentially require it. So, like with this system, for example, do you have to absolutely have a stoplight switch for the indicator light to work? No, you don't. You can wire it up in a different way, but the problem is, wiring it up that way, the indicator light will only turn on if the braking system is activated. So, in theory, you could have the cylinder that attaches to the brake pedal arm, that could be completely disconnected, not working at all, and the braking system still turn on, which in turn would turn the light on. And you would think everything's fine because the light's coming on, but it's giving you that false hope or that false reading. So using the stoplight switch, what that's going to do is that indicator light is only going to come on if the brake pedal arm is moving or being pushed down. And so that's going to give you a true reading, giving you confidence knowing that, hey, when that light is on, I know for a fact that my brake pedal inside of the Jeep is being pushed down. But other than that, you know, this is one of those deals that are not only specific to your vehicle, but your braking system as well. So hopefully I kind of cleared that up a little bit and helping you figure out if you actually need this or can use it or not. During the installation too, we'll kind of give you some close-up examples because with it inside the Jeep, it's really hard to see and kind of show that off. But during the installation, I'll show you kind of how it works and a little bit more detailed description about it and things like that. But speaking of the installation, why don't we go ahead and hook it up together now. To begin our installation for our stoplight switch, we're going to be here inside of our Jeep on the driver's side, and we're going to be working underneath the dash here right in this area. So first thing that you can do, just to make it a little bit easier to see, you don't absolutely have to do this, but there's a plastic panel right here, and literally that just pops off. No nuts or bolts or anything like that. You can just grab the corners of it and kind of work it off and pull it out of the way. This is going to be a little tricky to see, so bear with me. It's just, you know, a lot going on under the dash here, so we're going to do our best. But if you look through that opening on the left-hand side of your steering column, about midway up the dash, you're going to have a nut here, this one right there. And you can pull that off using a 13mm socket, and then you can take the bracket. So the bracket that mounts the switch, you're going to take the bracket and the side that has the notches, there will be two little notches at the end of it. You're going to take that, put it over the stud, and then put that nut back down and put the nut back on and tighten it back down. And then at the other end of the bracket where it goes down, that's where we can mount up our switch. So now if you follow that bracket down where we can mount up our switch, what you're going to do is the switch is going to have two nuts and a star washer on it. Remove one of the nuts and the star washer, put the switch through the hole in the bracket, and then put the star washer and the other nut on it. And you're going to adjust the switch to where it's, like I said, it's going to be tricky to see, but there's a plunger on the end of the switch, which I'll show you in a minute. You want to adjust that switch to where the plunger is fully pushed in. And as soon as you start to push on that brake pedal arm, you want that plunger to start moving out. So that's how that is supposed to be set up. When you figure that out, you can tighten the nuts down to keep it locked in place. And then we're going to have two wires, okay, that come off the back of the switch. They're only going to be a few inches long, the two black ones. You're going to crimp on a butt connector, and then one of the wires, you're going to crimp on the green wire that comes with the kit, And then the other one, what I like to do is get probably a 7 or 8 foot long piece of wire. You know, if you have it laying around, great. If not, you can always buy it by the foot here at eTrailer. But you're going to crimp another wire on to that side, or the last remaining wire coming out of the switch. And one of them, the green one, is eventually going to get hooked up to our indicator light. And the, in our case, white one, that one's going to go to the positive battery terminal on the outside or in the engine compartment of our Jeep. So just to give you a better look, here's those connections that we had made coming off the wires from the back of the switch. So like I said, you got 2 black wires. You'll use the butt connector to crimp on the green one. And in our case, we used a white wire, that long one that'll run to the battery. When you're doing this, it does not matter what side or what wire you connect to on the back of the switch. So you could use either or. Doesn't matter, as long as at the end of the day they're both hooked up, everything will operate like it should. So just to give you guys a better idea of how the plunger is going to work and how to properly adjust this, I just grabbed an old switch, old busted switch that we had laying around. It's not the identical one, but the concept behind this is all the same, and how it's going to work. So you can see there's that plunger there coming out of the switch, and it pushes in and out. And then here's the 2 nuts that I mentioned. So you can see, you know, depending on where you put that nut, you have that adjustability there. So the whole purpose of this is you want this plunger to rest against the brake pedal arm. And so just to kind of demonstrate, let's say if my finger was the brake pedal arm, okay, and it's right here. You want to adjust this switch to where that plunger is going to be completely pushed in whenever the brake pedal arm is in the resting position. And then as soon as you start to push down on the brake pedal, you want that plunger to start coming out. So literally, you know, as soon as you apply any pressure to the brake pedal, you want some movement there. And that's going to trigger the switch and allow it to send power out to your indicator light. So, you know, you find that sweet spot and then tighten both these nuts down, and it'll keep it there. And even if you're kind of having a hard time doing that or can't find it, you know, you get it close, but then you tighten these nuts down and it kind of throws it off a little bit. What I've even done too in the past is, instead of trying to get back under there with wrenches, sometimes you can just grab the bracket and kind of pull it back or push it in a little bit and get a little bit of adjustability out of it that way. So hopefully that kind of helps clear things up a little bit more. So now we can start to get it wired. So here's the green wire coming off of our switch. That's going to get connected to the red wire on your indicator light. So I just use a small butt connector to pair them 2 together. And then the white wire, this one here, like I said, this one's going to run into the engine compartment and go to the battery. So right up here in this area, there's a grommet that I used to push our wire through. So here's the grommet that I used, and you can just punch a small hole through the grommet and be able to utilize that. Chances are pretty good if you're at this stage of your installation, you already use that grommet to route other wires and things of that nature for your braking system. So you can use that same opening to get our wire out into the engine compartment. So now in the engine compartment, you can see the white wire there, and it's going to get routed along through here to the passenger side. And keep in mind, once everything's done, you can always zip tie it up and clean it up and everything else. But so here's where the white wire ends, and then I used a butt connector to crimp it to the included fuse holder here. So you connect that there. Don't have the fuse in just yet. The other end of your fuse holder, you're going to connect a ring terminal to. Go to the positive battery post, pull off this nut with a 12mm, slide the ring terminal over it, tighten the nut back down, and then once that's all tightened up, you can take the included 10 amp fuse. And if I can get it in there, I'll place it into the holder and close up the dust cover, and that's really all there is to it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Stop Light Switch on our 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.